I am super pumped to introduce my friend. The next speaker is Jeff Makey. He's a nationally recognized design expert and the CEO of C-Learn. He's got 15 years of experience transforming how professional training and certification works. I'll let him tell you. He delivers it all across the country. It's super innovative. And he's impacted, I don't know how many, it's got to be tens of thousands.
I don't know.
It's got to be tens of thousands of people. He's recognized by the National Park Service and the USDA and a whole bunch of other people, and I'm glad to have Jeff come to the stage. Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. That was great. Thanks, everybody. How about another round of applause? Thanks, you guys. Hopefully some more people will trickle in. So I work with a company called C-Learn. We've been around for about 6 years. We create training design programs, design consultation. We have certifications like our leadership certification, which we're going to take a piece out of that certification today. I have been in the training industry myself for about 20 years. Marty, when did we write our first training program?
It was probably 23 years ago.
And they're still using that, aren't they?
They are?
Yeah, it's still. So some of our training programs have been in existence. One of our programs is still being used by AB Tech. So that's kind of exciting, right? It's pretty cool. So what are we going to talk about today? What is this about? Managing professional relationships. So I want you guys to stop and take a different perspective on how we deal with our professional relationships. And I've taught this segment quite a bit over the past few years, and I've found that a lot of professionals have a hard time internalizing this concept. And what I'm going to suggest to you is really important, because ultimately we want all of our vendors, our trade partners, our subcontractors to put us at the top of their list. How many people have had trouble getting a trade partner or a vendor to return your phone call? You're paying them, right? And yet they're not returning your phone call or returning your email, or they're missing their deadline. So I want you guys to take a different perspective on how you're managing these folks. I want you guys to start to think about these trade partners as your customer. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Why would you consider them your customer? Because you're paying them money. But I want you to start to think about that. We're going to explore why and how that works. And when we treat these partners as our customers, I think you'll find that they will put you at the top of their list because they want to. Because they're going to see their success tied to your success. And how we treat them, treating them as that customer, is a critical piece of this. So is everybody ready? Should we get started? So first of all, let's categorize the types of relationships. We've done this into 4 different categories. A personal relationship. Now, we're all familiar with personal relationships, right? So those are your spouses, your children, your close, intimate friends. And these people don't really judge us as much because they know our strengths and our weaknesses, correct? Yeah, and so that's our inner circle, and we're going to start to build out. As we move out of that inner circle, we move into our professional relationships. They're the next closest. How many folks go out and have a beverage on a Friday afternoon with a professional relationship? Or go to a social event that they're attending, right? How many people do that regularly? Absolutely. So they're not quite the intimate friends, but they're on the next outer rim, our professional relationships. And we're going to come back to that as we continue to move through this. The next thing we want to talk about are situational relationships. Now, what's a situational relationship? Anybody? What do we mean by that?
Go to the ER.
Yes, a very uplifting analogy there, but yes, you go to the ER. Let's try to think of one that isn't quite so traumatic. Another type of professional relationship, a situational relationship.
Like you need a service on some plumbing to call a plumber or come fix this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So calling somebody to come work on your home. What about your child's school teacher? Would that be a situational relationship? I mean, you get to know them, but it's over a brief period of time, that semester or that year. And then after that, you probably never speak to them again, right? So other types of situational relationships we could consider would be like a tour guide or a raft guide. something along those lines, or even a server at a restaurant. Or what about me right now? This is like a situational relationship. You guys are learning about me. You're seeing me. We're kind of getting to know each other. It's a situational relationship. And then last on the list, and the furthest out on the parameter, is going to be acquaintances. People, you may know their name. You may shake their hand. You may recognize them, right? And what we're really going to focus on is going to be that professional relationship boundary as we move through this. It's really important to keep those professional relationships in that category. It's really easy to merge the line between professional and personal relationships. How many of you guys have lost your cool with your spouse? Is there anybody that didn't raise their hand? You guys have never lost your cool with your spouse or your children? What about a friend? Okay. Are you more likely or less likely to lose your cool with a personal relationship than you are with a situational relationship? Personal, right. Why? Why? You're comfortable. They know your strengths and weaknesses. They accept you for who you are, right? And so we feel comfortable about blowing our top, even though we should, because we know that individual is going to forgive us. They know what we're really good at. They love us. They know what we're bad at. They're going to let that go. What about your professional relationships? Do they care about you like that? No, absolutely not. So the first step is remembering that that personal relationship and that professional relationship need to be distinct. Every time I'm hanging out, having a beer with that professional relationship, I need to remember that is a professional relationship. I have to be careful of my behavior. I have to self-monitor. And it's real easy having those drinks at that social event after work to start to cut loose. Don't. Remember, that is your professional relationship. So we hear this word engagement all the time. How many people have heard the word engagement? Less than a third of employers engage with their employees. We need to engage with our professional relationships. But what does that mean? It's on the screen. Hint. It's emotional buy-in. Engagement means they believe in you. They believe in your business. They see their success tied to your success. That's engagement. Belief. Buy-in. Wanting to help you. So, has anybody ever seen the customer journey before? Yep. This isn't new. Thinking about our professional relationships as our customers is new, but this isn't new. So, you're cruising out there, talking to your clients. What's the first thing? First of all, who's your best sales rep? Clients, customers, right? But only an engaged customer is. So, customer journey, the first thing is they have to be aware of your product and service. But that's not it. That's not enough, is it? How many folks are aware of products and services that you never have any interest in? So you have to be aware of the product service first. This is the same with our professional relationships, right? They have to be aware of our products and services. Next on the list, they have to be interested. Oh, I want to buy that. I'm interested in buying that. Great. They make the purchase. They buy that from you. Awesome. Things are working great. Now, how many of you folks buy the same product over and over again? Like laundry detergent, right? I buy the same laundry detergent every single time. Now, out of all the people that raised your hands, how many of those products that you go to the store and you buy the exact same one every single time, how many of you go brag about that product? A couple, right? So, retention is not enough. Brand loyalty is not enough. It doesn't get us there. Nobody is bragging about your product or service if you've simply landed at retention, are they? We've got to take it a step further. I want them to be engaged. I want them to be emotionally bought into what I do. Advocacy, engagement, emotional buy-in. Questions about that? All right. So next we're going to move on to customers versus consumers. And this is where we're going to make that distinction between treating our professional relationships as a customer. And there is a distinct difference between a customer and a consumer. Frequently, they're synonymous, but there's still a distinct difference. A customer is who buys your product or services. A consumer is who uses your products and services. So let's give a quick example of that. Marty. Hey, Marty. We haven't even introduced Marty yet today.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so it's Marty's birthday. Can everybody say happy birthday to Marty? Yeah.
Thanks.
It's Marty's birthday today. Now, Marty and I have known each other for years and years. And I know Marty likes to keep a tidy house. She's really into it. It's what she does. In fact, it's how she gets her workout in. Jazzercises and vacuums, right? He's getting it on, right? So I know this about Marty. So I want to buy her a vacuum cleaner. Well, what's a good brand? Which is it? Vissel, right? So we want to get Marty a Vissel because we've heard of it, right? I have awareness. I'm interested. Somebody else just recommended it, right? Somebody else just engaged with the product brand, Vissel. So, all right, so I have an interest in it. I buy it. At this point in time, I am the customer. I wrap it up, gift wrap it all nice and neat, and I take it to Marty. Happy birthday, Marty.
Thanks, Jeff.
And she gets it and she opens it up. And what are your thoughts about it when you open it up?
I really wanted a Dyson.
We did not rehearse that, Marty. You were supposed to like whatever vacuum cleaner came. Let's start over. What is your reaction when you got the vacuum cleaner, Marty?
Yay, thanks, Jeff. That's exactly what I wanted.
Would somebody recommend a Dyson next time, please? All right, so we always use Dyson, so now I got to use Vissel. All right, so anyway. So my experience as the customer has ended. I'm not going to use it. And what is my end experience? I made Marty happy. My end experience is engagement. Marty was super excited to get this vacuum cleaner. So I'm like, yeah, whoop, whoop, right? I would buy another Vissel, right? So I leave, party's over. Marty goes to plug in the vacuum cleaner, and poof, smoke comes out of it. In fact, it doesn't suck. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Leland. So she is the consumer. What's her experience? Terrible, right? She's not ever going to be interested in that vacuum cleaner again. Now, she's not going to tell me because she doesn't want to hurt my feelings. So in this particular example, the customer has a really great experience, but the consumer has a very bad experience. We're starting to see that difference between the customer and the consumer. Let's build on that. Questions about any of this so far? All right, so let's talk about engaging with these professionals. Here again, we can see the similarities between the customer journey and our professional relationships, right? So once again, there has to be an interest. You've approached somebody or they've approached you about a product or service that your company needs. You guys meet, and we just did this with a print company, right? I was at a conference a little while ago, and there was a new print company. We do lots of printed material. Where were they? Knoxville?
Nashville?
Nashville? Yeah, they were in Nashville. So we reached out, we connected, they did the whole sales pitch with us, and it just turned out that it wasn't going to work out. The pricing wasn't right there. So that's where it ended, and that's okay. But let's say that it did work out. We're going to move on to the transaction. All right? So the purchase part of the customer journey is a transaction. The money flows. It doesn't matter which direction the money flows. It doesn't matter. It really, truly doesn't matter because the end result is what? Engagement. Who said engagement? Bam. The end result is engagement. The end result is I want everybody to put me at the top of their list. That's the end result. So the direction the money flows simply doesn't matter. It's a transaction. Because in the end, I want my trade partners to be loyal to who? What happens on Monday morning when you show up to work? I got a bunch of fires on my desk. Am I the only one? All right. Do you think your trade partners have a bunch of fires on their desk? Your vendors, right? Your subcontractors? Absolutely. Where are you going to land on that list? Because they get to choose, right? They get to pick who's at the top of the list. So if they're engaged with me, if they believe in me, if they see their growth tied to my growth, where am I going to land on the list? The top. I want to be at the top of their list. And I get there by treating them like my customer. All right. So it can be confusing. Let me give you a real life example. This really did happen. I've been going down to Kannapolis every year doing a custom training program. Years in a row. Always went great. And as things happen, we were invited to come back and we had a price increase. Who's sick of price increases? Right? So we had a price increase. Now, we talked about it. Tammy and I discussed the price increase. It was on the phone, it was in the emails, and the contract. All about the price increase. It was all settled. It was all established. I go down there. I teach the class. They buy me lunch, right? That's cool. They're paying me, and they all took me out to lunch. Jeff, you're great. This is awesome. Super. I go back home, and a couple days later, we send them the invoice. Now, within a couple of days of them receiving the invoice, Tammy writes me an email back. And she says, Jeff, there's a price increase here. We're not paying the additional money. I don't know where the price increase came from. What would your thought be? Would you be happy? No. Would you be sad? I was angry. I was pissed, let's be honest, right? I was like, what do you mean? We've had conversations, we've had emails, and we have a contract. So I pick up the phone and I call, Tammy. It's not her real name, by the way. I'm trying to withhold her real name. So I called Tammy up, and the first thing I said when she picked up the phone, it wasn't, how are you? It wasn't how things are going. I said, Tammy, what's the problem? We had a contract. Immediately, Tammy starts to cry. And I don't mean crying, I mean bawling. I mean sobbing over the phone. And she says, Jeff, I am so sorry. I might get teared up talking about it. It really broke my heart. She said, my adult son was just shot and killed in a random armed robbery. I felt like such a jerk. Right? Marty had to tell me to send flowers.
Well, I came in on that conversation. I said, Jeff, you get off the phone and you order her flowers right now?
Right now. Because who went off the customer journey? You did. I did. I fell off the road. It was me. It was my fault. Ask me if I was paid in a timely fashion. No. No. In fact, I had to send up a follow-up email reminding them to get paid. And Steve, the owner of the company, wrote me back. And it turned out Steve and Tammy were siblings. Yeah. Do you think I've been invited back? No. Fell off the customer journey. So it's critically important. And that could have just as easily been one of my vendors, couldn't it? Just as easily. All right, so let's start to talk about the strategies for effective communication. Because remember, if that had been my vendor, would they have pushed my project forward? No. No, they would not have pushed my project forward. All I had to do was start the conversation with, how are you? With every single customer, we should start our conversation off with, how are you? How are things going? First thing out of your mouth. All your customers, because we need all of our customers, our professional relationships, to put us at the top of their list. Once again, you guys, I've taught this class at least dozens of times, and people really seem to have this disconnect between, I pay you, you're not my customer. But as soon as I think somebody isn't my customer, they're not going to put me at the top of their list. This is all about me wanting to be at the top of their list, mutual success. That's what this is all about. All right, so with communication and that customer journey, no matter who our customer is, whether it's a trade partner or a client, doesn't matter which way the transaction is going. It doesn't matter which way the money is flowing. None of that matters, because ultimately we need them to believe in us. No matter who we're working with, we need their belief. We need their support. We need their emotional buy-in to what we do so we can be at the top of the list. So we're going to start off with verbal communication. Now that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? What's happening right now? Verbal communication, right? Tone of voice matters, correct? Okay, but this is only one piece of communication. There's a lot of other pieces to communication. So then we can move on to nonverbal communication. We're going to dive into that just a minute, which I would argue nonverbal communication is more important than verbal communication. And then we're going to dive into visual and written. But right now, let's spend some time on nonverbal communication. Can I get a couple of volunteers? You guys, come on up. And if you can't, can you make it up? Now we know each other. Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Will King.
What do you do, Will?
I'm a residential home inspector.
Great. And Will, I'm going to have you stand right over here for me. Perfect. Okay, we'll see this back for a second. And I'm Jeff.
Sean.
Sean? Sean, tell us who you are.
My name's Sean Smart. I own a consulting company.
Great. What do you consult about?
Business, marketing.
Business marketing. Excellent. We all need more of that, don't we? Mm-hmm. Great. All right, so now I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things with you guys and tell me what you think. So I'm at a backyard barbecue, hanging out, Labor Day weekend. Sean, correct?
Yes.
Sean and how are we normally standing? Am I standing like this with Sean? Is this how we hang out at a barbecue? No. So approach me and talk to me like we're at the barbecue.
What's going on?
Yeah.
How you
And
doing?
you see how he immediately turned? So he came walking up to me and he just instinctually turned, and usually you're standing at like a 45-degree angle, right? Yeah. What body language does this portray? Open, friendship, right? Comfortable, laid back. Whereas if I walk up to Will and stand like this, let me borrow that mic for just a minute, Sean. Will, how does this make you feel?
Attacked.
Attacked. Right off the bat. Right off the bat, right? So now I can pair that nonverbal communication with my verbal communication to help accentuate my point without ever raising my voice. Hey, Sean, glad we got that contract. I'm really looking forward to working with you. Things are going great. Hey, Will, I noticed we missed that deadline. And I just wanted to check to see what was up and, where we're headed and what the next steps are. So my tone of voice is exactly the same, right? Exactly the same. I never raised my voice. I kept on the customer journey, but my body language calculated my point, didn't it? I mean business. That's right. I mean business. Now, my tone is really calm. I'm very collective. I'm not blowing up. I'm not making any accusations. But my body language alone signified how I felt. So I would encourage you to consider your body language before you start the conversation. Think about it. Plan it. Now, this is difficult for me, and it is something I have to do because I like to stand like this or like this. I do it all the time. I'm cold. Marty will tell you I'm cold all the time. I wear a jacket in August. So this is just my natural stance. And a lot of times I have to think about when I'm approaching people to uncross my arms. Jeff, you cannot stand like this. Sean is going to take offense. I'm going to drop my hands. Open them up. Immediately. And I do have to plan that. And if I have a confrontation that I need to make, I'll plan how I'm going to stand and talk like that. Questions about any of those things? Okay, you guys stay right up here for just a minute longer. So visual communication. Visual communication. Now, we've got visual and written. So I'm going to draw some distinctions between visual and written. So visual communication would be something like a graph, a chart, an invoice, where I would consider an email or a contract to be invoice or a contract to be written. I would consider, a contract to be written, an email to be written, but invoice to be visual. So I've got a problem. Will has missed the deadline. I'm picking on Will because we are good buddies. Sean, we've just met, and you would never make the mistakes he makes.
Okay.
So,
Obviously.
so Will has missed the deadline, and he's my vendor, right? I'm waiting. My success is relied on what? On his work. My success is relying on his work. So if I piss him off right now, excuse the language, but if I make him mad right now, what's going to happen? Did I go up or down on his list? I went down. And does it matter who's right or wrong? No, I need him to be on the customer journey. Always. He's always on the customer journey. All right, sometimes you have to sever ties. That's understood. Be careful how you sever ties because you're still on the customer journey. Sever the ties professionally. So I come up to Will, and Will, turn for me here just a little bit. Perfect. I come up to Will and say, Will, how are things?
Pretty good.
Yeah. So I saw we missed the deadline last week, and I wanted to know, where we stand.
Did we? Did we miss the deadline?
So yeah, man, I have a copy of the invoice that you sent me, and I just wanted to go over this with you so you could help me understand what the next steps are and how we're going to resolve this.
Yeah, great. Let's see.
So just then, you guys, I demonstrated a whole variety of communication tactics while keeping Will on the customer journey. I squared up to him. I mean business. I crossed my arms. I'm not really open to hearing excuses, right? I'm closing off. Here's an invoice, a copy, the visual aid to help accentuate my point. I did all of that while keeping Will on the customer journey, while trying to keep him to want me to be at the top of his list. That's the whole point. And anytime we have the conversations, and I don't care if it's with Will over my missed deadline, or if it's with Sean, who's doing everything great, my marketing plan is now really working,
That's right.
Anytime I'm talking to either of those folks, I'm going to go back to my office, and within 24 hours, I'm going to do what? I'm going to follow up with an email, and I want to clarify in the email what we discussed. Don't get lengthy with the email. Don't go into a bunch of detail. Hey, Sean, I understand that the marketing deadline that we're trying to meet is next week. I really appreciated chatting with you. I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. Hey, Will, we discussed on the late project deadline that was missed, and we came up with these steps to make it move forward. Looking forward to continue to resolve the issue. Short, sweet, and now I've got documentation. Now, doing that, I'm also opening an opportunity for Will to say, I thought we discussed these steps and not those steps. So we're clarifying the communication. Clarifying the communication. Short, sweet, to the point, clarifying the communication. Now, hopefully we can move forward. So when we're going back to listening to talking to our folks, and these are good for all of your customers and your consumers. When Sean and I are hanging out on Labor Day weekend and we're chatting, what am I typically doing? Talking and doing what? Yeah, on my head, yeah, right on, yeah. How about them burgers?
Oh, man, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Right, so we're chatting about things, we're open, I'm nodding my head. So that is part of active listening. This is body language, right? Yeah, I'm open, nodding my head, I'm actively listening. Yeah, yes. And then I'm also going to want to repeat back what I heard. So what are the next steps that we're doing?
In the business plan?
In the next steps we're doing? Okay, so I understand that these are the next steps. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. So I do this frequently, and I have always been amazed at how I actually don't understand. How I was like, well, this is what I heard. And they're like, no, Jeff, no surprise with you, but that's not what I said. Let me clarify. So summarizing what we heard back is a critical piece of that active listening. It shows that we're listening and we're clarifying understanding, maintaining the customer journey with our professional relationships. I've engaged with both of them. We've clarified the conversation and we're following up in an email. Questions or comments on that?
the email follow-up, when I get those, I usually also pay attention to what time of the day they're sending and which day, and that tells me some more information. If you send me on Sunday at 11 a.m. versus, during the workday, it's giving me more information. I don't know what it does, but, can you comment on that?
Yeah, actually. So the question was, when I get emails, follow-up emails, I'm noticing the time of day or the day of the week. And I do think that it's important. We're not going to go down that too deep, but I definitely learned a hard lesson years ago about setting my work parameters. And so sometimes I do choose to work on a Sunday, but I don't want either of these guys to contact me on Sunday, do I? No. So I will hit schedule send. I'll hit schedule send. But just because you get an email on Sunday doesn't mean that they're working on Sunday for you, does it? How many people work on a Saturday or a Sunday or late in the evenings? Do you want to have phone calls bothering you about work? No, sometimes I'll work on a Sunday evening because I know the office is going to be quiet. The phone's not going to ring. And I'm in there so I can get dedicated time to work. That's why I'm in there. So it does mean something, but I wouldn't read too much into it. Yes?
Could that Sunday email mean urgency? If we're not usually working on the Sunday, could that be taken as the house is burning?
It can, yeah, Sean, it sure can, absolutely. And that just has to be left up to your own, interpretation of what's happening. But absolutely, like on a normal basis, I'm available to my clients at a certain schedule unless there's an emergency, and there's always exceptions, right? I always say that there's never a never and never an always, right? Good point, Sean. Anything else, you guys? Feeling good about that?
Yep.
So let's give you guys a round of applause. Thanks for coming up. Here you go, guys. Will. Thanks, Sean. Okay, questions or comments about any of this so far? Holy crap. Yes, it wasn't a serious question. I didn't really want anybody to ask anything. No, please, go ahead. No, please.
So, in your examples, you talked about you brought in the curiosity, but still the, firmness, which is nice. Because I end up having the opposite problem. Well, the problem of coming across as too nice and not firm enough. So just somewhere, if you can speak to that.
So that's, we're really moving into kind of beyond the confines of our presentation time to answer that. And that is a talent, learning to deal with confrontation. And being a professional facilitator for as long as I have, I can indeed say that that is a difficult skill. I've taught a lot of classes. I've led a lot of sessions, all adult education. And it's pretty common to have somebody out there that knows more than I do. You guys ever dealt with that? Right? And sometimes they really do know more than me. But other times they don't. And I have had to learn how to kind of push that down and keep things moving forward without inviting an argument. Because once the argument goes up, we're all customer journey, it's wasting everybody's time, and it's just no longer successful. So it is a talent that you just have to learn. Yeah, and did you have a question?
Yeah. This question may seem silly, but why? I didn't really understand why you want to keep your personal and your professional relationships separate. And then also, have you seen models where you've been able to successfully integrate personal and professional relationships?
So yes, it is indeed possible to merge personal and professional relationships, but I have found over the course of my career that that is a rarity, that most of the time that can't happen. And I have made it happen a few times, but it is rare because people will take something personally and carry that over into the work world. And I can point out to someone that has been very successful with me, Marty.
It's because of all the vacuums I get.
So, and somebody else that he and I have worked together several times, quite professionally, and still remain friends, and that's Chris Webster, right over here. So it is possible to do that, but that is a rarity.
So why keep them separate?
Because I need to keep them on a professional level. I need to keep them on the customer journey. So, Marty, have you and I ever had an argument?
I'm sure we have.
Yeah. Chris, have we ever had an argument?
Yes.
Have we ever yelled and screamed at each other? More than once. All right. So we are fighting mad. Have we been fighting mad at each other before? Yes. I mean, we've never laid hands on each other, but it has definitely been, oh, you should see how red Chris's face can get, right? So if we hadn't overcome that, which is not normal, Chris is going to carry around a grudge against me. I can't believe Jeff that, and me likewise. And it's important to remember that most of your professional relationships don't get that intimate with you. And even if they do, they may blur the lines between professional and personal relationship. So one of the things like that Marty and I works really well for us, when we're at work, we talk about work. And when we're not at work, we rarely talk about work. And that is like one of the definitive boundaries for us. And it takes both of us to play into that. So while it is possible, there's never an always, there's never a never, right? I don't recommend it because it is rare. This has bit me in the butt more times than I can count. I simply don't recommend it. Yes, it is possible. I got 2 examples here right now where that has totally worked, but it's not normal. It's absolutely not normal. Other questions? Thoughts? Disagreements?
I have an extra question. So can you talk about where in your example with the lady whose son was killed and you called to talk about the agreement? I didn't understand how where in that came off the customer journey.
I thought we had an understanding instead of, hey, Tammy, how are you?
So that's it, just putting the relationship first.
Because how should you be talking to your customers? Welcoming, respectful, concerned. Same thing with my professional relationships. As soon as I talk, how are you? How are things? And then I'm going to move in. And this leads right into another real life example, still happening right now. We have an LMS with an international company. We started using the LMS when we first opened, and they were a fairly new company based in New Zealand. And so as we were getting started, they were getting started, there were a lot of hiccups, a lot of problems with the software being a little bit buggy, but we knew they were new, and at this point, they were having really great customer care. We had a work order problem, so I email in, we have a significant problem that is affecting our sales. I reach out with a work order to these guys and send it off, and I don't get a response. I send it off again, no response. A couple of weeks go by, no response. So finally, this is affecting my sales. This is a problem. So I escalate. It's like, all right, you guys, this is just becoming an issue. I want to talk to the manager. Like, this just isn't happening, and this is affecting our sales. And I did it very professionally. I said, absolutely. So they got Chris on the phone. Chris scheduled a phone call with me, which, by the way, if you've ever done business in New Zealand, it's impossible because I have to meet with them at 7 o'clock at night, quite literally. And to them, it's like 9 o'clock the next day. It's like time travel happening over the phone. So I finally get in touch with Chris, and we're on the phone chatting about things. And what's the first thing I say to Chris? How are you? How are things going? And I immediately noticed that Chris has an American accent. And so, you're not a Kiwi? You're in New Zealand. This is a New Zealand company, right? And so I'm further building that relationship. So then we start chatting about things, and then we find out that Chris is a dog lover. I'm a dog lover. If you know me, you know I've got a Great Dane named Dee Dee, and Dee Dee goes everywhere with me, right? And so now we've built this connection. Customer journey. And then we move forward with this connection, and I'm like, okay, so Chris, is it a reasonable expectation for work orders to be handled in about a week or so? Yes, Jeff, that is a reasonable expectation. I'm not demanding, I'm not insisting, I'm not raising my voice. Is this a reasonable expectation? Because if it isn't, I need to know what the reasonable expectation is. Yes, Jeff, that's a reasonable expectation. All right, is it a reasonable expectation that if it can't be fixed, I'll be kept up to date, at least on a weekly basis, to how this is progressing forward? Yes, Jeff, that's absolutely reasonable. Great. By the time the phone conversation was over, Chris personally took over my work order. Chris personally handled it and kept me up to date on a weekly basis until it was all. The head honcho of customer service took me and kept me at the top of their list. Do you think I am their biggest client? Not even close. Not even close. Now, this relationship has continued to grow. Hey, folks, just this past spring, this company paid me to go to DC and be a speaker. My vendor is paying me. They're paying me. They are now sponsoring my company. They've launched a new e-learning segment. They're giving us the software for free. I am an official case study with them. I have literally turned into a sponsored company because I saw them as my customer. And this relationship has grown and blossomed, and now they are advertising to people that there is no way, shape, or form I could reach. I just don't have the financial capacity to reach their market. In fact, in about a month, I'm going on another international webinar with them to speak about how we create training programs. They want me to do that because we use their software. And they're giving us the software. All because I treated my trade partner, my vendor, as my customer. I kept them on the customer journey. And it's a true story, and it's still happening right now. Thoughts? All right, so again, the critical piece that people struggle with, treating your professional relationships like they are your customers. They're on the exact same road. There is no difference here. They are your customers. You want them to be emotionally involved with you. You want them to buy into you. You want them to put you at the top of their list on the Monday morning firefighting show. And you do that by making them your customer, treating them like they are valued because they are valued. Your business cannot succeed without them. Everybody is your customer. Everybody isn't your consumer, but all of your professional relationships are your customer. Be welcoming. Anytime you meet a professional relationship, be welcoming. How are you? How are things? How's the family? Be an active listener. Calculate your body language, particularly in conflict. Calculate it. What do you do if you have that trade partner who's just yelling and screaming at you? Jeff, you bleepity bleep, F-bomb this, bleep, bleep, bleep. What am I going to do? Okay, if I say to that individual, I don't appreciate that tone, you can't talk to me like that, what have I just done? I made it worse. I just put gas on the fire because now I'm telling them what to do when they are very angry. No, don't do that. Do not do that. Do not talk back. You're going to make eye contact with them. How am I going to stand? I am going to make eye contact because I'm not making eye contact. What are they going to say? You're not listening. John, did you have a question or are you just stretching? Boring you to death already? Great. So, I'm going to stand there, and at the end of the rant, what am I going to say? Thank you for sharing. That's not bad. I'm not going to repeat back what they said because they're not allowed to talk to me that, are they? It's a professional relationship. No, I'm not going to repeat back. Instead, what I'm going to do is let me look into this and let's reschedule a time to get back together. That's it. Let me look into this and let me reschedule a time. How many of you folks have gotten really mad about something, really pissed off about it, and 4 days later, you're not nearly as mad? Am I the only one that's done that? So, a little bit of time, everybody calms down. And during that time frame, what am I doing? I'm calculating my response. I'm formulating how I'm going to respond to them. And if it's going to be in person, I'm thinking about my body language. If it's going to be in an email, I'm thinking about how I might even draft it 2 or 3 times. They calm down, I calculate. Back on the customer journey. Back on it. Always repeat back in your own words what you've heard or what you think you've heard. Do it verbally and do it in an email. The email side, the written part of this is critically important because that's your documentation. If things go truly south, and they do, I've been sued for breach of contract, things can go terribly south. But having all of those emails, short, concise, explaining what we agreed on is a critical piece of documenting what happened. Good papers make good friends. Questions?
I've had experiences where people are much more willing to go off in an email than they ever see you in person.
So I went through a real terrible time once. My friends know this. And separated from my wife, big custody battle. It was a real nightmare. All that's behind us now. We get along. Everything's worked out. But one of the things I learned the hard way was 24 hours before you respond. 24 hours before you respond. And that I found that keeps you can't stop what they're doing, right? But maybe I need to take 24 hours before I respond to that. I think we had another question over here first.
How do you have any tips for keeping just the relation, the human-to-human interaction from becoming
How are you? Just like this.
Can I restart it? You want to restart it?
Hey man, how's it going?
Good, brother. How are you?
Yep. Do you guys see that? Not only do we shake hands, but what do? Yep. Hey, is that more personal than this? Absolutely. I just increased our personal relationship, making our professional relationship more of a connection.
I guess I mean more internalized for me as the person who's kind of strategizing.
Facilitating
about
it?
these things regularly. Have you noticed that over time that you start to see people strictly as what they can be for you versus like kind of who they are?
You know, that's a great question. So the question is, how do I maintain this type of professional customer journey? And you know, what I'm going to tell you right now is the absolute truth. It's a struggle. And I had been teaching this certification before I interacted with Tammy, and I still screwed it up. Every time I teach one of my classes like this, the leadership series, every time I teach it, I go back and I think about it. It's like, Jeff, are you doing these things? So it's a constant struggle. It's not a one and done. And I'm constantly trying to evaluate how I'm communicating with people. And I serve on the Home Builder Association board with a couple of other people, and I bet they can tell you when I've dropped the ball. Jay's going, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. So it is a constant struggle. And I have to constantly remind myself that we are on the customer journey. It's not I've got this down, it's over. That's not what this is. This is weekly, monthly. I make mistakes. I've got to pick the ball up. I need to take my own advice. Absolutely. It's not a one and done. There's no simple solution. Sorry, that's the real answer. I think I had another question over here.
I was just going to say on the note on the emails, one thing I find that if I get an email from a client or a customer that is kind of high energy and you can tell they need it, time to calm down, I actually like to pick up the phone and call them. Because when they hear your voice on the other end, their barrier comes down a little bit. They're like, oh wow, you are the person that I've always dealt with. You are, still Julia, and that seems to really, really help.
The personal connection goes a long way, and that is the customer journey. Yeah.
This is what I just said to you on the phone, and now I'm replying that way.
How many people are sick and tired of the phone tree when you can't get somebody? Right? So because we don't have the personal connection, we're not on the customer journey. They've put the phone tree on to save money. Yes?
I have a question. You're talking about being welcoming and connecting in person. How about when you're sending emails? You don't always connect in person. What's a good way to kind of personalize it? You can't say how are you doing, and then there's no back and forth. So how do you really personalize?
You know, I'm probably not the one to ask that question to because I tend to be very sarcastic, and it has been a very difficult lesson to learn. Sarcasm does not work in email at all. So I'm not the one to ask her advice on how to compose an email, right? I'm just not. I can't, Hope all is well. But one thing, I do have some professional correspondence, And one thing that they do say is, I hope all is well. And one thing I hate is the attorneys that have come after me always started out with, I hope all is well. I hope this email finds you well. So when I see that, I'm like, raw. You don't care about me. This is like what my attorney coming at me who's going to depose me tomorrow says. This is not, yes.
To kind of piggyback off of what you were asking in your response, it's about like shifting our perspective from being like, what can people do for me, and going, what can I do to help others?
Beautifully said.
Very simple switch, because when we go from the lack mindset of I need, to an abundance mindset of I can give. Not everybody's going to be the customer, right? Not everybody's going to be the consumer. But the more that we give, the more that we're going to receive. That's a hard thing to come to grips with. And that's where the work is at individually.
Did everybody hear that? Approach all these relationships as what can I do for you? Because it's back to the customer journey, isn't it? Yeah, and that's I'm going to actually steal that and put it in our notes. And we're going to start to say it like that because that is really said. It's back on the customer journey. Do we have one more question?
Yeah, it was just a feedback. I really like, be welcoming. One question I have for you, and then the feedback is going to be the blurred line between professionalism and personal. In clients you work with over decades, it naturally blends to personal. So how do you keep that in tune? And then what helped me not see people as numbers on a checklist is stay curious. Anytime I'm curious, I'm not asking what I want or what I need. I'm thinking about other people first. So I just stay curious.
So the end result, this is another comment of keeping those barriers up, the boundaries, if you will, between professional and personal, always trying to be welcoming. And the one thing that I have said, and again, facilitation has been a huge part of my learning curve, is it's not a one and done. This is a lifelong professional accomplishment, learning to do these. And you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. Don't beat yourself down if you make the mistake. That's okay. It's a constant learning curve, and it's a constant struggle to make sure, like I said, every time I teach these classes, I come back around and say, Jeff, are you doing this? Are you following your own advice? So it is indeed a constant thing you have to constantly be aware of. And when I was in DC, and I was with the global head of marketing with this CRM in DC, the global head of marketing of a multi-million-dollar international company. And we went out every single evening for drinks. You're damn right. We definitely blurred that line. But ultimately, I had to remember where we are. Because when we got to be great buddies, I'm an old raft guide. He's an old outdoor guide from Canada. We had all of these similarities. And we really connected. And I really liked him. And he really liked me. But when we're all said and done, he went back to New Zealand. I came back here. And we're back to that professional relationship. And so the whole time we're there, it's like, all right, we've bonded, we've connected, but we have to keep the separation. We learned about each other's families, we drank a little too much together, the whole thing. But in the end, we both went back to our offices and had to pick back up on that professional relationship. So it is a constant awareness. I think we're about out of time. Is that right, Bill?
You could have one more question.
One more question. Anybody? How about great job, Jeff? Oh, we got one more question. Sorry. That's exactly right, and that's well said. So,
Lose the ability to gain trust, because anytime I have conflict in my life and I work through it with a partner, whether it be professional or personal, it's an opportunity for us to deepen the relationship of trust, not necessarily as
So I don't want to say don't go there. I want to say this is a gray scale. Okay? And you just need to be constantly aware of that gray scale. As we said, sometimes we learn really intimate details about our clients and they learn about us or our professional, like my vendor for the CRM. Like Andre knows a lot of personal details about me. We hung out every single night. We chatted intimately every single night. To prepare for the presentations and things, we were chatting constantly. So it's not that this is a hard line, but it's a gray area. And Chris and Marty are a great example of those gray areas where I was able to successfully merge it, but don't rely on that. Even when you get really intimate, remember this is a professional relationship. I can't yell and scream at you, even though I could yell and scream at Chris, right? All right, thanks so much for coming, you guys. We do have a booth out front.
Yeah,
Come
give it up
chat
for
with
Jeff.
us.